2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome back to a Movie Madness or the Anime4All podcast. I am the Game Hunter. We're here with Jacques, or Spirit Magic Helmet.
Hey, I'm Spirit Magic Helmet, and I'm here with the Gay Hunter. And whether that means something good about gay people or bad is up to you to decide. But
I was hoping he misspoke accidentally and not for a bit.
Sorry, did you mute me?
No, I didn't mute you. Should have. Should have just muted you there. Canceled. Got our podcast canceled. How dare you? We're in season 3 where you got canceled. Well, it probably should have been canceled earlier. On to other news.
It was like watching the 2016 election debate. So everybody's like, "Where's the mute button?"
Jeez. Okay. We're here to watch the third My Hero. Well, we already watched it. We're here to review the third My Hero Academia movie. I think this is the last one they were ever gonna make. I could be wrong. I said that about the last movie they made before this one came out. So, track record ain't good.
All right, good night, folks.
What the heck? There was this movie again. I completely forgot. I should have it right here. What am I doing? I'm stupid. Don't mind me. I've had a day. Not really. We're here to watch My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission, which is also in the title of the dang podcast. I don't know why I just didn't look at that. I made things really difficult for myself just now. This I believe is the most recent movie that they've released for the series. I think it's also the last one. I think the creator mentioned that this was the last one I guess he was going to be a part of, I'm guessing. So we're here to review this. I want to also put some prefaces in with this one. This movie is taking place in between the hero's internship and I'm not sure it follows. It's taking place in between the internship with Endeavor and before they have their massive little war with the evil organization. So this is happening in between those moments that they were at the end, that they were interning with Endeavor, which is why you see Endeavor for a few moments in the movie. Yeah, just a few. Surprising considering that they had Chris Sabat come in there for that, but no, Chris Sabat doesn't voice Endeavor. Shoot.
Who is the voices for Chris Sabat?
Right now, Chris Sabat, I know for a fact, is voicing All Might. Endeavor is voiced by somebody else. Whoever that is,
voice of Piccolo in Dragon Ball, right?
Yes, Chris Sabat is known of the man of many voices.
It was just weird because I felt like Endeavor sounded a lot like Piccolo.
Patrick Sells is the one that does Endeavor's voice, and Patrick is... I'm looking for something that's, like, I've watched that he's a part... Oh, he's Dr. Stone. Okay. Weird. Oh, he's in Advanced Wars? Okay. Oh, he's Frankie? None of these characters are bringing up Kenpachi. Ishin? Wait, what? Okay, now I got it. When I watched Bleach, I gotta be listening to the dub voices. Now I didn't realize that that was him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a minor project for myself. Right now I'm looking for anything that maybe you watched that his voice was in, but nope, nothing I would think that you've seen. Huh. But yeah, his English VA is that he isn't Piccolo. Chris Sabat voices Vegeta, Piccolo. I think he voiced Yamcha. He's all over the place. If you watch anime in English, you've heard of this man's name a couple times. He's in Fullmetal Alchemist, Dragon Ball. In Dragon Ball specifically, the first the very beginning, He's Yamcha, he's the turtle, he's King Piccolo, he's Piccolo Jr., he's Mr. Popo, he's Shinron, he's Grandpa Gohan, Koran, and others. He's voicing people that they said they just gave up on naming everybody. I didn't know he was Koran. That's actually kind of surprising. He's did a lot of work in Dragon Ball. In GT, he's Vegeta, Piccolo, he's Gogeta with the other guy.
It's like in Family Guy, that same guy like voiced almost every voice in Family Guy.
Oh, he's in One Piece. He's Roronora's. Oh no, yeah, I knew it. Like Cristobal is Roronora's Zoro. I knew that. In Kai, he's Vegeta, Piccolo, Yamcha, Vegeta. You get the point. I think you get the point. He's done a lot of voices for Dragon Ball. I don't know why he did a lot of voices for Dragon Ball. Yeah, he only voices All Might in My Hero.
So
yeah, he's done a lot of work. He's done a lot of. He's Bubbles in Dragon Ball Battle of the Gods. Okay, before I div, he's Zarbon and Broly. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. That's what happens when you look at Cristobal's pedigree. I've done it before, and I haven't done it in a while, so that's kind of why I was kind of rediscovering some voices. Okay, good on you, Cristobal. When you pass, you'll be known as the man of many voices forever. Oh, that got dark. Okay, well we're gonna start reviewing this anime movie. Just the overall take on my take on the movie. Before we start reviewing it hardcore, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I especially loved the one-on-one fights at the end of the movie between Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto. I thoroughly I wish that Shoto's fight went on a little bit longer, but I understand they had time, and the budget they were using on him was probably what really made the fight short.
I think I didn't mind the matchups conceptually, but I don't like the way movie fights go compared to other fights that you see in anime, because the movie fights seem to lean really heavily into like less realistic, much more overpowered battles, and I like being caught up in the realism of things much more than I like to be caught up in, Spider-Man being punched through a brick wall, and you're like, why can that happen? I didn't know Spider-Man had durability.
Overpoweredness of the fight, I don't completely agree with that, mainly because you're dealing with a person that's capable of throwing fire from his hands and ice.
Have you ever had something like stabbed all the way through your body?
No. I would like to go the rest of my life without that happening.
I haven't either, but I'll tell you, I get taken out by much smaller wounds, and there was like Bakugo in particular gets stabbed all the way through his body like 6 times, as well as some other serious wounds.
I mean,
if you're in the real world and you take like, say like a metal chain with jagged edges was to like scrape against you and you got like 5 cuts from it, people like they cared about you. You'd be all over you being like, are you all right? Are you all right? And you'd be like, yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. And,
you're also, I mean, here's the thing.
To the hospital to like get like treated.
Here's the thing, Jock, though.
What?
Continue. You're making a point.
But in this, like, you see, like, Bakugo stabbed all the way through his body, like, 3 times at once. And he lands, and the crazy things, like, very justifiably look over, and they're like, and, like, they're really happy about what they've done, and he gets up and let's fight some more. And I'm not buying it.
Here's my
perk powers.
Here's my thing, though. Like, I mean, this world, humans aren't normal. I mean, for crying out loud, they develop powers by the age of 5. And on top of that, I also want to point out that people's thresholds of pain and what won't take them out is different. Now, granted, if you're dealing with a bullet's a bullet. But I feel like like Bakugo being able just to, I mean, I'm pretty sure he was in pain. And I'm pretty sure you could see it on his face, but the guy was so insane. I mean, there is something called adrenaline rush. Sometimes you're able to do things you shouldn't be able to do. And I
I get
mean,
it.
you hear about a situation in real life where a woman picked up a freaking car, well, half of a car, to release a baby from being stuck underneath there. I mean,
She did that once. She didn't do that for 7 minutes.
you don't know how long it was.
It wasn't for 7 minutes.
You don't know that. You weren't there when it happened.
Do you want to place a bet with me and we'll look it up? Because I know that's like the standardized like cast for adrenaline and its value. Take adrenaline, you'll be able to lift cars every time for 7 minutes apparently.
I'm not gonna sit there and like say the adrenaline is like, but I'm just saying like we're dealing with an anime in a fictional universe. Humans are not made of the same stuff because again they develop powers in this freaking world. Like I mean, normal humans don't do that. First of all,
My Hero Academia's battles are already pretty hyperbolic. Like they're already pretty crazy. Like if one of your powers is not durability, durability should not be one of your powers.
now if you train your body to be able to withstand pressure.
You can train your body and everything. It's just this is a little bit ridiculous. Like getting stabbed through your body with 7 or 8 spikes takes you down no matter how much you've trained, no matter how gritty you are.
I mean, I'm not gonna fight with you with this fight. I mean, like I said, like for me, Bakugo's fight was probably the least interesting. I mean, at least spectacularly speaking, because I mean, I took that as though like Bakugo had his time to be in a spectacle fight last movie. So like it was really Shoto's turn, to really be the center of an actual fight. So it was like for me, I was like, I mean. They didn't pay much attention to Bakugo's like constant getting serrated by those crazy guys. I was more interested in just seeing him beat him. Nothing he did for me in that fight was of note. So it's like, I mean, it was a cool fight to watch.
He wronged it all the way through. Like he didn't do anything particularly smart. He didn't do anything particularly creative. Like that really like strong part of Bakugo that he always has a plan behind what he's doing in the second week wasn't really there. He just kind of like he just acted bronze. He just like fought his.
Well, I mean, they were laughing at him every time, and they were not going down, even though what clearly they should have. I mean, you want to talk about like unrealistic fights? Explosions to the face should knock you out. For whatever reason, they were not being knocked out, even if they were on. But no, they weren't even on Trigger before he was doing all that too. Like when they took on Trigger, I could honestly sit there and say, okay, maybe Trigger is protecting them. But before Trigger, they were taking blasts of like almost a nuclear radiation. No, they were taking TNT level blasts to the face. You know about humans.
It's gonna go against what I was talking about a little bit, but I would say that like some portion of that is just the fact that Bakugo is intentionally not fighting with lethal force, I think, until he actually literally says, I'm not holding back.
But even with that, TNT still blows up no matter what. Bakugo's literally TNT.
I was counting that to him not going as hard as he possibly could until he said, I'm not holding back. Because it's when he says, I'm not holding back, that he actually takes them out.
But that only happens when he does Howlets or Impact. I'm not sitting there saying like these blacks should be killing them. I'm sitting there saying these blacks should knock them out. I mean, even the concussive force blast, like for whatever reason they're not going down. And I'm pretty sure it's because they're just movie villains. That's all they really are, because they kind of came out of nowhere. Like both Todoroki's villain and Bakugo's villain that they fought kind of came out of nowhere. Granted, Todoroki's villain we kind of saw before, but it was like it was one of those really weird situations where he kind of came out of nowhere. That's the really only downside to those particular characters. We don't really know who the heck they are. They were just obviously fodder for a spectacle fight. But again, Bakugo already had his spectacle last movie, so I probably really wish that Todoroki got a chance to fight with Deku in this movie, but obviously they wanted Deku to fight Flecto on his own. Uh, like I would have looked. I think Todoroki could have overwhelmed flexibility like easily. But I mean, I guess it's neither here nor there. That's why they didn't want him there, like, because like Todoroki could probably overwhelm him really easily. But I guess we're gonna rewind back. Very beginning of the movie. Speaking of Flecht, we have a serious like kamikaze, like, well, not kamikaze, but we definitely had a nationwide attack on people with quirks. I also want to bring up too, and actually you noticed this, but that guy was in the anime. Like he showed up in the actual he actually showed up in the anime. I actually remember this, but back in, I think this movie came out in 2019, so I'm pretty sure that.
Are you talking about Flex Turn?
Yeah. I'm not sure if you remember specifically, but it was in the season, specifically the season where Bakugo and Sora and everybody were doing their internships. There's like a separate scene dealing with some characters and some organization that hate people with quirks. They actually gloss over them, but they do talk about them a little bit. I don't actually remember because we don't it's when we learn about the other heroes and villains and stuff like that in other countries. Like that moment, I think we even see the scene that I think you said that it was based on. Shoot, what was it? Lesbian. We see. I think you even bring up that Othean is lesbian. Apparently, I mean Othean's in Lisbon. But
the city that yeah, it's Lisbon.
But we see in the actual anime, but that character.
The buildings especially are very Lisbon. If you look at the pictures I sent you, you can see how this is just an anime version of Lisbon.
No, I recognize it. I recognize it when I saw it. I didn't really. I mean, I thought it was a Spanish country, but that's why I said Spain or Brazil.
Right.
Completely off base. But we see him actually in the anime. They gloss over him, but we do see him. And it was like it was something about world building. I guess when I finally got a chance to watch this movie years later, I was like, oh, so that's what all that was. They were again just setting up for the movie that would apparently, I guess, would soon pop up that same year. But he does show up in the anime. They just gloss over him a little bit, which is great. I guess it's kind of cool. That ties in the whole this movie being canon. So this actually happened before Deku got back to America, apparently. Well, not America, but Japan. So that's kind of cool. But back to the violent beginning. Yeah, apparently there's this gas been let loose in the city, in various places of the world where people have powers, and the powers get overloaded and they just die. Some of them very violent deaths. Some of them just like turned into an animal and it dissolve. Some people just dissolve into the element. There was a couple of scenes where there was a guy with apparently a bird quirk that just like overwhelmed him and gave him giant wings.
The guy with the turtle that turned into a turtle. All I know about that is that he didn't have any turtle thing on any part of his body that was showing. So maybe he's kind of a grow into a turtle or not a shower.
All I heard was turtle. That's all I heard. And I forgot the name of the movie where that came from.
I'm just saying he didn't have any turtle showing. So he's not a shower. He must be like the guy that just grows into a turtle, right? He's a grow into a turtle or not a shower.
I don't know. We've never seen people with the ability to transform into animals. We've only ever seen people with animal characteristics.
We've never seen someone transform into. Well, we've seen someone transform into a dragon.
Okay, so then I took that back. That completely went against everything. I also just remember Sun Eater, but though he eats things and turns body parts into animals. Well, whatever. So I guess we have seen. I guess that makes sense. Really weird though. He just turned into a normal turtle and then got flipped on his side. That's the equivalent of death right there.
He turned into a turtle way too much, apparently.
Whatever. I mean, he really got flipped on his shell. He could not. He's gonna die. That turtle died at some point. We didn't see it. I think you bring up a question like with Midoriya effect, given that he wasn't born over. I don't think the gases targets people with born with quirk. I just think it targets you if you have a quirk. I know, unfortunately, I mean, Deku has a quirk now. I don't know what that gas would do to him, considering that at this point, it's just at this point in the movie, well, at this point in the timeline, Deku only has access to his strength ending ability and then Black Whip.
Yeah. What I was wondering is, he's not genetically someone that has a quirk. He was born without a quirk, so it was an interesting.
I don't think it really matters though.
What?
I don't think it matters.
Why?
Because he has a quirk, and I mean he doesn't know it by this point, but we know it because we're watching this movie at a sequence. But Deku, technically speaking, is genetically not quirkless anymore. That quirk is his, and his alone.
You're saying that he has that bone in his toe.
No, I still don't buy that the bone has something to do with the powers. I said this before. I still stand by it. That doctor's lying. That doctor's lying. Plus, we also know the doctor was working with Overland, so I don't buy.
You say the child might be born with a quirk if his partner was quirkless.
What? Sorry, repeat that again.
If he and someone else with no quirk had a child, that child would have a quirk because Deku has a quirk and he passed it down.
I don't think that's how that works.
If you have a quirk, you pass it down. Like, we know that. Because we've seen that with, like, Endeavor, for example. And we've seen that with Froppy's family.
I think that whole thing is really complicated. Because, like, they make quirk marriages, like, something like an entirely different subject versus just, naturally having kids.
I think there's at least a chance that if Deku got hit by that, he would not lose his quirk. Or his quirk wouldn't like be impacted by it.
I see what you mean that he was born with a quirk, but I don't know if that gas specifically targets genetic quirks.
What else would it do?
But it doesn't make any sense though, because like, why would you specifically target like? If you have you either have a quirk or you don't have a quirk. There's nothing really special at all.
Deku has both had a quirk and not had a quirk in his life. He's the only one, and they wouldn't know to design it for somebody that might have had a quirk acquired over the course of their lifetime, rather than just been born with it.
But the gas only affects you if you have a quirk, though. They made it so that it doesn't affect quirkless people. Normal humans.
Right, but does he count as a quirkless person or not?
I don't think so, because he actually has a power now.
You'd have to, like, really, there's no way to be sure, but, like, you'd have to get into the nature of the power and, like, how it actually works. Like, if it's affecting someone on a genetic level, I don't think Deku's genetics were necessarily impacted by the quirk. I think he's always had to deal with the quirk despite it not being, like, genetically natural for him.
But even with that, genetics get into really complicated territory because, like, is that something? Because, like, to me, it's like, okay, they were making this gas to affect people on genetics. Everybody's quirk isn't gonna be the same genetic, like, I guess, sequence. So not everybody's quirk is the same. There are people, like you said before, that have the ability to transform. There are people that have the ability to make things, either elemental or not. Like, everybody's quirk is different. I feel like like how every human is different on a genetic level, I feel like the quirk thing will be the same thing. There's no way you can make something that could account for everything. That could account for everything like that is out there. I feel like at some point you have to meet somebody who's, doesn't get affected by this. That's my thinking.
It's not impossible, but, like, at the same time, like, I don't know. I think the precedent for this kind of ability is the X-Men. And everybody in X-Men, even though their powers are all very different, they all were born with the X gene.
Well, I think we don't really. In this world, there was a kid that freaking got born that was able to shine bright like a diamond.
Right.
So we don't know where this kid is. This kid's gotta be a full-grown adult by now, but I guess on that topic of, like, that kid, we learn later on at some point. Well, actually not later on. We learned this early on before we even see this movie, but They are afraid of the doomsday theory, which is on the very like I guess surface of it is quirks are gonna constantly changing and evolving, and they're afraid that something's gonna happen to the people who can't defend themselves. Which I guess honestly they have the right to be afraid because there are people out there who have powers that shouldn't have them. So you know, there's you know people who don't have the ability to defend themselves. Like I mean, like I guess like that's something to be worried about. Whether you should be attacking everybody, that's a different story. But it's interesting that the doomsday theory thing kind of came here because I think it does show up in the anime at some point, and they bring it up and then gloss over it. Uh, this is what resistance gets you. Explosion. What is that referring to? This is like 6 minutes.
Oh, when Endeavor comes charging in to the place to attack it, they tells him to get out of the way, and they don't. And he goes, "This is what resistance gets you," and he blows up the door and like blows them up with it. There's sort of some implications that some of those acolytes and stuff like that might have been killed or at least very, very wounded. But there's sort of a theme starting with that, and then throughout the series a little bit, where police are involved, where the police are very gung ho, and the heroes are compared to police a lot, like working out of their jurisdiction because they're working, you know, in a different country in this. But it starts right at the with that. This is what resistance gets you. Kaplam! You know, they fly out of the way, and he's kind of a brute. So that was one of the examples, and then there's some examples later on where like he. Sorry, give me 1 second. Brody has like sometimes when he's talking to him, he's like, I want to see what's in your briefcase, and he's like, well, how much are you gonna pay me? And he goes, why would I pay you? And he's like, why wouldn't you pay me? Like, it's something that you want. It's something I have to provide. And he's like, I'm not doing that. I just want to see what's in your briefcase to make sure you're safe. It sounded very much like a First Amendment audit, like where someone goes out and they know their rights and they put themselves in a position where the police are likely to come in and do something about it, and they assert their audit, like they assert their rights, and they have like scripts, and the police have scripts, and they kind of like run through the same thing. If you watch like 20 First Amendment audits, you'll start like you can make like a bingo card for it, and like the catchphrases that both sides hit and stuff like that. But you see that like thing right there where they're talking back and forth, and they're like he's kind of like discussing his rights to Deku as a citizen for what Deku wants to do, like saying you can't just search me because you want me to be safe. You can't just chase me and make up laws for yourself. But Endeavor has the same thing there where he's like almost like police brutality. And then at 2110 they have like this sort of thing where like American police are kind of represented as, they kind of parodied them as American police. I know they're in like somewhere that's represents Lisbon, but you see like very American looking police there, looking gun happy, and you know there's 30,000 like police officers all pull up and start automatically firing on Deku and everything, Deku and Rhodey, and they have to flee because they're not able to talk any sense into them and stuff like that. So you get this like sort of underlying like current, like almost like they're being critical of police throughout the movie.
Yeah, that makes sense. But this was 2019, so yes, yeah, I guess that would have been before everything that happened. When they were out police.
Gets you.
Huh?
This is what resistance gets you.
See here. You brought up Rhodey. I kind of wanted to just speed it, huh?
640 and a little bit earlier. This is just a little Easter egg. It looked like that little like kind of like extra hero that they have running along with them as a support looked a lot like they were making a parody of DC's Flying Squirrel. Are you familiar with Flying Squirrel?
I've never heard of him. I looked up a flying squirrel in DC comics. I got Ray the Flying Squirrel.
The flying squirrel has been like a joke, a gag character, but the flying squirrel's also been treated sort of as like a real character. And you see the flying squirrel a lot, and she's friends with squirrels, and she's sweet and kind, and she's like famous, and like she's super strong, and like she parodies of her are kind of common. Like you see one in The Tick, for example, the old '90s cartoon The Tick. And I might actually be using Flying Squirrel's name from The Tick when her real name is something else similar to Flying Squirrel. But I thought it was kind of cute to see that little reference to Flying Squirrel, that little nod to it in My Hero Academia. She's like flying along next to him, and it could have been almost nothing else except maybe like a sugar glider. So I got a kick out of that.
I thought she was just weird and like kind of like I said, a support character that was able to fly infinitely. It didn't look like she was gliding at all, which is what flying squirrels do. But well,
Well, what do you mean, the gloves? In my 10 o'clock note, 10-minute notes, is that what you're referencing with the gloves?
no, what I'm talking was that flying squirrel character you talking about. I just thought it was a weird, really weird character, and it was really weird that she was. It looked like she was flying like of her own volition, like she didn't require like flying squirrels in real life. They don't actually fly; they just glide. I'm just saying that's just thought it was kind of interesting that she was actually flying and not gliding. Well, at least what it looked like to me. It didn't look like she was losing altitude at all with that character on her back.
Right.
So in the situation, she was actually flying from the looks of it. But who is this? He wears a glove, kind of like Deku here. He uses them to represent. I'm not getting the character you're talking about. You talking about Rodney? I mean not Rodney, but
Brody.
Brody.
Yeah. So what I thought here with the glove was that if you look at the gloves he's wearing, especially at like the 10-minute mark, see that they're kind of oversized and a little bit comical looking on him. Like they look like they're too big for his hands, kind of. And if you remember, you at 10 o'clock you see him putting them on, and he pretends to 10 minutes you see him put them on, and he puts his hands out like right after he puts them on, and pretends like he's a monster and scares his brother and sister around a little bit, like to tease them. But I remember noticing in early episodes of My Hero Academia that Deku's gloves always looked too big for him. Like they always looked like they just dragged on his hands a little bit. So when I saw that and I saw this early in the episode, like I thought immediately that they might have been trying to draw like a parallel between him and Deku a little bit, which definitely becomes more apparent as the season goes on. You know, an almost quirkless character versus quirkless character, both of them kind of like picking an idol out of one of the top heroes and kind of like becoming more than they were when they started because of being inspired by the other hero. And it also felt to me a little bit like, if you watch Cowboy Bebop.
No, I haven't. By the way, he isn't quirkless.
He's almost quirkless. That's the whole point, that he has this tiny quirk.
But that is his quirk.
Right. Yes, I'm saying that he has a small quirk. Deku didn't have a quirk. And it seems like they're building sort of a parallel between the two of these characters in a lot of ways. And
I also want to point out on the concept of oversized gloves. Bakugo has oversized gloves.
Deku does not, or Deku does have oversized gloves?
No, Bakugo also has oversized gloves.
That's fair, but he's teamed up with Deku. He never meets Bakugo really, so like I think they're trying to make the parallel between him and Deku.
I think I see there's definitely a parallel between him, but I don't think it's the gloves.
It's more than the gloves, but the gloves I just noticed as the first sign in my eyes when I was watching him that we might be seeing a parallel between him and Deku. It reminds me what I was saying when have you seen Cowboy Bebop? I was saying that like there's a Cowboy Bebop episode where Cowboy Bebop has dark hair and he's very Japanese and lean looking, and he meets a cowboy that's like a traditional American cowboy looking character, and the two of them are either opposites or like exactly the same, and they make really like butt-headed rivals against each other, and it makes for a really rowdy, funny kind of episode because like the two of them like are either exactly alike or exactly different, and like just the perfect like foil for each other because of it. And I felt like that was like the same situation with him here. Like Deku is overpowered, but he's still working a lot on his finesse and his techniques and things like that. This guy seems like sort of a natural for techniques. Like Deku can't get ahead of him, even though he doesn't have a quirk that he's actively using against Deku um, because he can just dodge and he can do parkour and he can do all sorts of other tricks and things like that that make him like sort of Deku's equal in a lot of ways. And when we go back to the quirk for a second, he has a quirk that's also like his quirk is equal parts strength and weakness. He cannot tell a lie. He can communicate what he's actually feeling to Deku at the end and uses like his quirk for a good reason. But he also says that his quirk also always gives up what he's really feeling. So it's sort of like his quirk is like debatably a weakness or a strength even. You know what I mean? So it's like yes, a quirk exists and it didn't exist originally with Deku, but it's like one of the most debatably good quirks that we've seen so far in the universe.
I mean, personally, for me, I don't know if it's debatably a good quirk, because like when they were hinting at it throughout the entirety of the dang movie, they made it sound like it was gonna be. Now, granted, I will admit it definitely was important by the end, but it is like to me, I was sitting there like they made it sound like it was something he was gonna do, not the little birdie that apparently farts on Deku, which I thought was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
So when I thought, I was like, wait a minute. So you tell me that bird farted on Deku, and that was actually what you were feeling. I was like, huh. That's kind of. I guess in fact we're gonna back up on Rhodey a little bit. We bring up Rhodey's interaction with Deku. We see Rhodey after the situation with everybody dying to their quirks, and the heroes gathering together to figure out and stop. Forgot the name of the resistance. I forgot their name. Crap. The Humanites? Yeah, I think the Humanites. They we see Rhodey, as you said, like he's when we first get introduced to him, he seems like a genuinely nice guy. Then we find that apparently he's a courier for illegal activities. That he's well aware of it, but he's assigned to it because his life isn't that great. He has two younger siblings to take care of. Is it 2 or 3?
2.
He has two younger siblings he needs to take care of. They all live in it appears to be an abandoned junkyard or something like that, or just some like abandoned place with a bus or little not a bus but a trailer in it. Yeah, I guess a trailer park would be better description what they're doing in like a trailer park. And they live there. We learn later on that they were run out of their home because their father got involved with the resistance. By this point, it's free vote. Ronnie does not like his father. Though before we get to that, we see him running around doing a business for some shady bar, moving money or jewels in this case to a client that we never see because he never gets the jewels to the client. But all this is happening. Apparently, there's something else happening in the city. The heroes are there in the same city that he happens to be running, jewels to, running around jewels. Deku gets involved, and Deku sees him with a suitcase that. Wait, no, correction. Back up. All this is happening. He's running all the jewels. We cut over to Deku and everybody else. They're fighting a different group of baddies. Apparently, they're running. Like, there's 2 guys running with a suitcase through a crowd of people, telling everybody to get out. Bakugo's saying, why have I been reduced to an errand boy with, Todoroki and Deku? We probably found out they had to beg to be brought.
Parallel, isn't it?
Huh?
That's kind of a cool parallel. They're all being reduced to errand boys.
Oh, I guess I never thought about it.
What?
I never thought about it.
Yeah, Rhodey is being reduced to an errand boy too. And they're both talking about smiles too, because Rhodey's told, "You'll take that regular rate that we have, and you'll do it with a smile." And then Deku's talking about how like he wants everybody to do, you know, to save. And later in the episode, he's talking about how he wants to save people and do it with a smile. You know, so you get that idea that this is what Rhodey does, and he should do it with a smile, and this is what Deku does, and he should do it with a smile. At this point in the show, they're all just errand boys, though, for some boss.
And never thought about it, but yes, you're right.
Yeah.
After all that happens, after that is said, they see the villains running with the same suitcase that Rhodey back before was carrying. They're making a mess, trying to get away. Bakugo, Deku, and Todoroki are trying to, stop them. Just that's what heroes do. Bakugo ends up taking one of the, Todoroki ends up taking one of the villains out by freezing them still. He tells Bakugo to go after the other guy. Bakugo's like, don't tell me what to do, and goes after him anyway. Ends up chasing him into, well, I guess that guy had a quirk because he was in a wind tunnel, but he ends up chasing him into an alleyway, straightforward. Apparently, oh wait, he ends up taking him out, and then we'll all of a sudden we come back to an alleyway where the guy that Todoroki was supposed to have taken out, I guess got away somehow and was running down a dark alley. He finally stops him, finds out the suitcase that they were carrying isn't there. I think I'm getting my events because like the suitcase that they had was given to Rhodey. I'll say Rhodey was meeting them at that alleyway, and he tossed the suitcase into his hand, and he ran off with it. Deku is told that there's a suitcase missing. He runs after down the other alleyway where he saw Rhodey running down there, telling him to stop, and chases him down for the suitcase, which I guess adds to some comedy because Deku is not giving up, and Rhodey is wondering why. It's like, why won't this guy give up? This man apparently, as you said before, it's finesse. He's able to get up a pretty tall building.
Once the person runs down a train that you escaped onto, I think that's a reasonable question.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm getting to. Is like he chases him down into a subway tunnel, and he thinks he's okay, and then all of a sudden he sees Deku like running after the suitcase. He doesn't see him until after Deku jumps, faces plants onto the back of the train. He's like, ah, why is he still here?
Fantastic.
That was funny to me. I was like, geez, like of course they had to give Deku a funny moment, but after that,
great pressed up against the window.
Yeah, ham under glass. After that, we see Deku and Rodney. They're talking. We already talked about the whole like, why should I let you see what's my rights here? Deku is persistent because he says, I will let you go as long as I know what's in that suitcase. But apparently prior to all that, during all that ruckus, there was another fight happening with I guess the Arrow Girl was involved. I don't know. I don't really remember. I remember there was like, that's right, the Arrow Girl was involved. Rodney had kind of got involved in a really bad spot. Apparently there was another villain group running around, I think Humanites, with a suitcase very similar to his. There's an explosion, and the suitcase that they were carrying gets dropped out of their hand, slides over to where Rodney is, but his suitcase ends up flying into the dust. He picks up the suitcase that he thinks is the one he's supposed to be getting because they looked similar. Which up to this point, that suitcase that the other villains were carrying was covered in a black tarp or something. So we found out it looked exactly the same. He takes the suitcase, runs off with it. He remembers that's what happened. He's like, "Oh dang it! I didn't get the right suitcase. The jewels are in the other one." And prior to all that's happening, he's getting shot down by the Arrow Girl. Who I'm glad that you caught on to that because I caught on the moment it was happening. That girl, who don't remember her name, is very similar to Nagant. And I remember, wait a minute, everything that happens with Nagant happens later on. So we're seeing a very similar character to Nagant in terms of like that she's very skilled at far away trajectory, or she's able to, like, she's very far away but she's still able to hit you. I don't know who's better in terms of like that kind of fighting, because it's like that girl apparently is able to charge up her arrows or whatever that she's shooting with her hand with a green energy that looks
Like
like
the
it
arrow actually gets
controls
more
the.
tries.
Hmm?
It can the arrow can fly back and try to hit you more than once.
Didn't the gods hair bullets do that, or am I thinking wrong on that one?
I don't remember if the hair bolts do it, but definitely the arrows.
Well, I mean, she apparently filled up those arrows with some green energy, which is what allowed her to control them. I believe that she was controlling them. I don't think they were homing. If they were homing, good gracious, I'm not sure that green energy is for, um, but yeah, either way, I mean, we get like a beta version of the Gaunt here, which is really cool. An arrow chick who's able to shoot you from very far away.
The group is sort of a beta version of the group they fight later on in the season too, because they wanted like kind of a new world order.
Yeah, it makes
So
sense.
did the other season where they were trying to like create something that was like appealing to the layman, and they thought superheroes were too powerful and everything else. That was like basically the final, most recent season of My Hero Academia follows a very similar pattern to this movie as well.
But yeah, I mean, the movie definitely came out 3 years before all this. So I guess it's kind of interesting that if you saw this movie, you kind of saw everything that's happening in the anime currently. Um, Before we skip on her a little bit, we also find out apparently she's working for the Flat Turn, the guy who's in charge of the Humanites. I believe that's their group name. Um, Apparently, at this point, we don't know why there are people with quirks working for the Humanites. But he says that you can purge yourself of your sin by working for us to save all mankind. Uh, at this point, I was very confused. Later on in the movie, I really got annoyed that there were people with quirks fighting for these guys, but it is what it is. We find out later really what's going on.
I watched this with my wife, and she said the same thing. She asked me to pause, and she's like, "All right, so why are these guys fighting for the enemy when they want to get rid of everybody with quirks?" And I just said, like, I think it's just a successful attempt of the enemy to find some powerful yet gullible villains that like they could convince would stick with them, and you know what I mean, use them as hired thugs, expendable hired thugs.
I mean, we learn later on in the movie what's really going on and why they're doing that. I will say that I like that Bakugo kind of calls him out too.
Yeah,
Bakugo calls him. I was like, wait, why are you guys working for them? You have quirks too. I was like, thank you, Bakugo. You were saying what I've been saying this entire movie. It was kind of getting on my nerves. It was like, I understand why, but
coerced.
hmm?
And I think they were just tricked into thinking that they were going to be treated like special cases.
I don't. I mean, for me, I was like, I understand story wise. They can't have people without quirks fighting people with quirks because that'd be ridiculous if people without quirks are beating people with quirks. But still, it was like, I really don't know what's going on here. I'm very
And if
confused.
they went back to Flecht, and they saw Flecht was someone with quirks too, he might have like had enough credibility to talk them into it.
Yeah, that's true. Man, I mean, yeah, basically spoiler because later on we find this out. But Flex is a person with a quirk, and with his name, he's able to reflect everything. We'll get more into him later because he's really important. Um, all this is happening. Deku finds out what's inside the suitcase, which is nothing but pens and just like documentation like for an office job. Brody gets really confused, concerned. He starts panicking. He's walking backwards like he has to pee, because this is apparently the nervous look in this show. Deku's like wondering if he's okay. He runs off, tracing his footsteps back to the scene where all these explosions happened. Deku chases him and says, "Are you sure you're okay?" We get the situation with America, guns, not shooting before you ask. Apparently they're trying to shoot Rhodey. Deku saves him. That makes Deku public enemy number one, which explains why one of
They
the.
say that he killed 13 people. That's what makes him public enemy number one right now, is the fact that he's from a different country. He came there and killed 13 people, according to the reports.
I mean, yeah, that's basically the story they're telling, but he became Pioneer One when they when he took that kid because they thought they took the suitcase that was important. Which I guess it really was. We found out later on too about that. Deku and Rhodey are now on the run from the law. Everybody else from like class 1A and 1B find out that actually Deku is now wanted by the FBI or with like the world government, the police.
Nobody believed for a second he did anything wrong.
Yeah, which is cool that all Deku's classmates don't believe him. I was like, oh wow, that's cool. Every one of them did not believe him.
Even Floppy, who's like the most inclined to be like on the mainstream opinion and like follow authority, is like, there must be an explanation. Even she's willing to compromise, you know what I mean, and say like the authorities must have something that they know, but there must be an explanation for it. The authorities must be a misunderstanding, whereas everybody else is like, Deku didn't do it. You know, and I will die for that. I will die on that hill. Floppy's very reluctant to go against authority. And he established authority and, you know, authoritative orders. I'm done talking about Floppy.
No, I'm sorry. It just like I would just sit there letting it happen. I was just, you know what? I'm just gonna let it happen. He hasn't let any Froppy talks happen in a while. He deserves this.
Oh my god. She's been pushed completely into the background. She doesn't get any time.
But after all that happens, like Todoroki tells Deku to like avoid the authorities while you try figuring all this out. Like Todoroki ends up grabbing Bakugo on his way out to go find Deku. One of the funny things actually I find funny too is that Deku, because he has to get rid of his phone so they can't track him, gets a burner phone and sends him a coded message. And later on, Todoroki's just like, you haven't gotten better at sending coded messages since I forgot the name of the city that they were in back when they were dealing with not Dabi, but Stain. Because Deku sent a coded message to him then too that he wasn't able to decipher immediately. So I thought that was kind of a cool callback.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
But Deku is now running with Rhodey with the suitcase. So they don't know what's going on. Like apparently the suitcase is important. They don't know what's truly in this thing. So they're running with it because Deku doesn't want to A, give it to the villains. Deku B doesn't want to give it to the authorities. C, Deku thinks there's something fishy going on here, and he wants to make sure he has a hold on whatever is going on here before he does anything with it. And E, Rhodey is concerned about the well-being of his siblings because he calls the bar guy, tells him, "Can you check on his siblings?" And he's like, "I'm not doing you any favors," and he hangs the phone up, which is rude, by the way. At this point, Deku and Rhodey are now like fugitives running from the law. Later on, in a few hours, I guess, by this time, because they end up walking to a cave, sleep for the night, or not a cave, but some like I guess shed or something like that. They had this heart to heart, you know, a little bit before all this happens. Then as Deku is sleeping, Rhodey ends up taking the suitcase out and calls somebody. I think he's either calling the I don't know who he was intended to call because I feel like he didn't get who he was supposed to be calling. He was supposed to be calling for that drop off or whatever. He ends up calling somebody, and they come to pick up the suitcase, and the mysterious guy, shady individual, pretty much says, "Is it just you and him?" And he's like, "Yeah, she gonna let me go?" And then his hand turns into a club, and he turns into an Oni. That was actually kind of cool. I've never seen a quirk like that up to this point. I think you had something to say there, Spear.
Part about the hand?
I think you had something to say in general. I thought you were trying to say something and I completely cut you off.
No, I'm sorry. I was agreeing with you.
Oh. But, pretty much both hands turn into clubs and he's trying to kill him. As this is all happening, the quirk that we didn't know at the time was a quirk, ends up like waking Deku up and pretty much letting him know that he's out there in trouble. Deku ends up saving him, and Deku gets hit, um, in the side, I think, or he just gets hit somewhere, and he manages to save him. He manages to save Rhodey, and they manage to get away. Uh, does the only dude die or get hurt really badly and get knocked out? Oh, sorry, Deku uses Delaware Smash, knocks him out on his back, and uses that time to get away.
And Rhodey's pretty much amazed that like he bothered to save him, especially given the betrayal and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, later on he tells them, like, as they were waiting in the cave, why'd you do what you do? He's like, they have real deep heart to heart about dreams and whatnot. Deku always wanted to be a hero, and he's willing to fight for he's willing to do it necessary to achieve his dream. I think he even let slip that he didn't have a power, or I'm imagining that.
He let slip that he had a power, and he explained it to him, but he explained it to him off screen.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, first he says something about his power, and then Deku's like, yeah, and he says like something like, leave me alone, I won't tell you, and he's like, oh, okay, and he's like backing way the heck off, getting off his back, and then he says, well, I'll tell you, but you have to swear, and Deku gets way too serious. He's like, I swear I'll never tell another soul, and he's like, really? And he's like, yes. And then he starts explaining it, but they cut off the screen.
I was talking about Deku talking to him about his power.
Oh, Deku doesn't tell him about his power.
Oh, he doesn't tell him that he wasn't quirky? Okay, I just want to make sure. I thought that was wrong. But yeah, he does. He explains, like, he asked him, like, I was curious, don't you have a quirk too? And he's like, yeah, he's embarrassed about it. Then they tell him apparently they're having a heart-to-heart, and he cut off. That comes back later at the end of the movie, because they make it seem like it's important, which, I mean, I'm 50-50 on it. We were kind of thought about it as it is, but after that point, let's see here, I think... Oh, we also learned a little bit about Rhodey's plans. His dream. We learned a little bit about his background. His father was an engineer that got taken by the Humanites, and they wanted him to work for them and build them something. They threatened his kids, which forced his hand, so he had to go work for them. The people in the town apparently found this out and ostracized the father and then the kids as well. And the kids had to find some place else to live. Apparently, before all this, Rhodey, he had dreams. He wanted to be a pilot. From the sounds of everything, the way he was talking, that he wanted to be a pilot, but he gave up on that dream after everything that happened to him. We also find out
he has a toy plane. He takes it out, and the kids are playing with it, and he's lifting them up in the air, even though it's really hard for him to do. So the kids can kind of fly the plane a little bit higher.
Also find out that Rhodey's good at puzzles, which that comes back later, because apparently his father brings him on a puzzle that
specific puzzle.
Huh?
He's good at that specific puzzle.
Okay, I'll let you have that. He's good at that. He's good at a specific puzzle that I've never seen before in my life. That comes back later on too. After all that, explaining that he does Deku, I think they get up the next day, start making a headway, because Rhodey ends up borrowing a truck from, I guess, a nearby farm, and then leaves them a note.
Before they do that, there's an important conversation they have where Deku's they're talking about like getting out of here and everything and being protected, and Deku's like, oh, I will, I promise. And then he also told him if he's tired, then Deku could just carry him like a backpack. That seemed to hit Rhodey hard, because I think he promises at the beginning of the show that he's going to protect his brother and sister. So I think Deku's promise to him is like very parallel, especially with him offering to carry him like a backpack, because when they flash back to the past of Rhodey, you see him trying to lift every kid up on his own with the airplane, but also he's wearing his sister like a backpack at the same time, because his sister's strapped around his back. So there's this like weird parallel where Rhodey sees himself, I think, in Deku, but Deku's treating the whole world like his family, and Rhodey's just treating his family like his family. but both of them are very loyal to their quote unquote family.
I was gonna make a joke there. I was like, of course he would treat his family like his family. I would hope he does, because if he doesn't, he's absolutely trash.
But Deku treats everybody like they're equally important in family and worth him risking his life over. Where Brody seems to only really do that with his direct family, which is basically his brother and sister. And Jeremy, I need to step away to go to the bathroom really quick. Do you want to go over the schedule for the next shows so everybody in the podcast knows, and just take a little break, like narrating that while I wait for about a minute and a half?
I really don't have a plan. I will. I mean, you can, and I will find out what I need to know.
I'll be right back.
So we're taking a small commercial break, and I want to say we're going to be doing this for one more month, and then we'll be back to normal schedule in September. But we'll see. Oh. Holy crap. Oh, that is soon. That's at the end of the month soon. Okay. Dragon Prince has got a set date now. I didn't know it. Looks like season 5 is coming out. Are they releasing all the episodes at once, or are they releasing episodes one at a time? So maybe we'll take the rest of the month off after this podcast. We might be reviewing Dragon Prince season 5 faster than I anticipated. Huh. That might be what we do next. I don't think there's another movie that we can watch and review in that time. I'm gonna check with Speary Boy about that. See what his opinion on it is. As for anime, I have no idea. I don't even know if My Hero is scheduled to come out this year. So normally we do that on the October that it premieres, but I don't think My Hero is even due on the season yet. Premiered yet. Let me.
And now for the word from our sponsors. The
Spear sucks. I mean, what?
The Jiffy solar-powered shoehorn. Ladies and gentlemen, the new technology of the sun has come to your shoehorn. If you've been trying to open your shoehorn, use your shoehorn and open it up, and you found that it's constantly running out of power, the solar-powered shoehorn is your deal. So promoted and subscribed to by the team here. Game Hunter uses it every day to take his shoes off. I use it when I'm not wearing flip-flops to take my shoes off, even though I wouldn't have shoes on if they weren't flip-flops. So we've done a lot of collaboration with them. We really believe in them. They're fantastic. If you use Game Hunter 0920, you can get 20% off on the shoehorn special that they're doing right now for the 4th of July, where they're saying it's lights at nights. And apparently the shoehorn's so sensitive to charging up that it can actually charge up from a fireworks show. So if you're in that fireworks show and things are getting a little hot and steamy for you, you've been turned on by all those fireworks and the big kabooms, then this is the way you can get your shoehorn action on. You know what I mean? Get those shoes right off, kicked right off, and no awkward pause while you're taking them off and tumbling around in the grass. Again, that's Jiffy solar-powered shoehorns. Thank you very much.
Okay, I just found this out. And I was thinking that maybe we can maybe start this up in August if you're feeling it.
Sponsorships?
July 27th.
This is your first sponsorship. You should be proud.
Dragon Prince has been given a release date.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess confirmation. We'll take the rest of this month off, but we'll come back to watch Dragon Prince. I guess we'll go back to the weekly format. I'm not sure what you want to do. You're more.
26.
We'll come back August. What's the first week? Actually, we'll come back. Oh, jeez, hold up. First date of August is a Tuesday. Guess I do this on Mondays.
We're available on the 31st or the 1st anyway, so we should make it starting.
Okay, we can start on August 7th then. I mean, if you're not available on the 31st or the 1st, reasonably so.
I'm going to get a beach house, so.
That's fine. I mean, we can start on August 7th. We'll pick up from where we left off in Dragon Prince, from there. So I hadn't looked at Dragon Prince specifically because we weren't really through everything here, but I'm guessing that means this is the last of the movie madness for this year, or for the time being until we come another movie we want to watch. But yeah, I guess it's a good idea we'll jump back to that. I looked for My Hero Academia, no news on the anime, so my suspicion might be correct. I think because the manga is due to end and they're in their final arc. Maybe there'll be some time between, because I know that this anime has been animating 3 story arcs every season, and they could have just maybe animated the 2 they had, and maybe animated part of 3, and just like waited when they were able to animate it all. I don't know what their plan is, but right now I don't see anything. So even remotely saying there's a season coming out. So I'm gonna go out on a limb, say that I think there's a season in October. I don't know we're still pretty early on in the summer anime lineup, so there's a lot of summer anime coming out. But we'll discuss that when we get to that point. We might, because Rurouni Kenshin has gotten a remake anime and it's coming out this month. I'm gonna like hold off and try to watch it and see if maybe we'll just do that during the winter. October, November. There'll be a few episodes out by that point. That's something new that I read a couple of chapters a long time ago. I watched the animes from a long time ago, but they didn't cover the entire story. Apparently, from what I'm reading right now, the manga's still going on. No, it's not. Something's going. No, there's a manga apparently going on for him, but I don't know what's going on there. But we decided to redo an anime, so that'd be kind of cool to watch, maybe. But we'll talk about that more after we get beyond or get halfway into Dragon Prince, which, by the way, won't take long. It's only 9 episodes.
Oh no! I want more Dragon Prince.
So, yeah, that's a thing. So that's one of his bring that up while we had a moment in time to do so. Okay, back to our regular scheduled programming.
We left with Rhodey's backstory.
Okay, yeah. So apparently underneath that Yusuke Todoroki has a new cooldown support item. I didn't notice that. So
whatever's strapped around his shoulders is, I've never noticed him using it before, but there's one point at around 109.23 or so, and I've been slightly lower estimating my time so that we could see a couple seconds of context. But you see him use his powers in kind of a big way with a bunch of fire and ice used together, and then afterwards, if you look at his back, you see this thing on his back with little vents on it, and you see them let off some steam. It looks like some sort of recovery support item that was either cooling him down or warming him up or regulating his temperature. But you see it go right after he's using it as he's breathing heavily.
Huh.
That thing that Todoroki's fighting there, by the way, looks a lot like what's his name from DC Universe, Lobo.
So I just never remember, okay, where we are in the movie now. Of all that, I actually just now kind of the uh Deku and Rhodey get to a canyon, you know, as they're getting close to this town they're trying to get to, and I completely forgot the name of the town they're trying to get to. We, you know, whether it be out of jurisdiction of the police. Uh they get to a canyon, they ditch the truck, which by the way, that I guess that will be being returned to the guy he borrowed it from. Left him a note and everything.
Maybe that tow truck.
So that truck is gonna be there.
Which is fine because I was wondering how they had money to pay for gas for it anyway.
Well, Deku had money. I mean, he freaking paid the bus that he hitched a ride on.
Having like 50 cents and having money for gas.
Man, he was not letting me have that one.
I'm just saying.
No, I understand. I'm just saying you just weren't letting me have that one. He was like, no, you're not. You're not talking the way out of this one.
Excuse me, sir. I'll have none of that, please.
But after that, they get attacked by the villains, and the Arrow Girl, and as they're about to be defeated, Todoroki just zooms in with ice and then like freezes everything. It's ridiculous. Like, I mean, we see that, okay, they actually finally showed up. The Arrow Girl is there too, shooting everybody down, and we have the Lobo lookalike apparently, also causing damage. They managed to get away from them. Only for Todoroki managed to freeze just about everybody, takes out the like, you know, pretty much makes so the Arrow Girl can't do anything. She's out of arrows, and pretty much says for the resistance and jumps out of the helicopter and dies to her death. Mm-hmm. And we never see her again. Like, that is literally the last bit of everything we see about her. She kills herself.
Yeah, she was really fully devoted to this whole cause. So,
I thought it was a shame because I thought she would have been kind of cool character to learn about, but apparently she was just an extra.
A cool character to have Deku change too.
Yeah, that would have been interesting too. After all that, they all come together. Todoroki tells Deku what he believes is going on, and he, you know, humanites us after the suitcase. They're involved in all this. Deku is like, "Are you sure? Certain?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm sure." Bakugo's the one who figured all this out apparently, and they managed to get to the closest city that they're trying to get to because they found out there's actually a memory chip, something in the bottom of their hidden compartment in suitcase. Obviously, a memory card comes out along with is it the puzzle that comes out?
Yeah, it comes out of the little puzzle box.
Like, it comes out of the puzzle box, and Rhodey found remembers that this is something that his father gave him as a kid, and he solves it. And then there's a memory card in there, and then another device as well. They plug this in with Bakugo. Apparently, he's really good with computers. Who would have guessed?
Well, it's like the one time they let Bakugo be smart in this show.
He's always smart. He's like really calculative and everything like that. I mean, he's just.
But in this movie, he's not particularly smart. He's just crazy and brutish, and that was like the one time that they gave him credit for being intelligent.
I guess that's true, actually. They find out. They stick the memory card into the computer. Bakugo pushes everybody aside, trying to look for the most recent video on there, and it's revealed in that moment that Rhodey's father is dead by this point of the recording, and there is a shut-off valve because before all this is happening, the heroes are trying to stop the bombs, more bombs from going off that will kill every quirk user in the vicinity, because humanites are a bunch of terrorists. But apparently they're kind terrorists, because Flex I'm gonna give you, I think, an hour or 2 hours, he said, to find them all so you can turn them off, whatever, or take them out of the city.
He was trying to draw all the major heroes into the area, so he was giving them plenty of time to gather around, so they could be at the epicenter of all these things going off. He was bargaining. He was using those bombs as bait, so he could gather all the heroes together to take them out at once.
He's attempting to kill all the heroes.
Yeah, he wanted to start with the heroes, so he figured if I could take them all out by giving them something to chase after that was specifically designed to take them out.
All this is happening. They find out that this is all happening. They're gonna go. Torko's gonna go and warn everybody, but then he's like, realize Dicko's like, you're not gonna get them in time. So they end up finding out where their base is, so they can put the key into this. This is like an automatic shut off mechanism in the base that apparently I think was in Greenland. I think that's where it looked like it was supposed to be. I'm gonna call Greenland. It's in the deepest part. You know, their base there. They find out that's where they find out that's where like the main mechanism is. So then they make a plan to see if they can't get up there. They realize they're pretty far away. They're not gonna be able to get there on foot or car. Then Roadie Boy says that he can get them there really easily. And as we all know, this is where he gets a chance to be a pilot. There's a funny moment when he's in the cockpit and with
you said cock.
Of course, with his bird, and he's like, "Don't worry, I got I know mostly what I'm doing." And I was just like, that's what they say before they die.
Yes.
But
I think that's great.
He ends up getting them like clear to where they need to go, letting Endeavor and everybody else know that they're on the way to shut off every single bomb at once. And everybody's like doing their best to keep the bombs at a distance because they don't know what's for them, but they're trying to get it out of the city just in case. Bakugo, Todoroki, and Deku with Rody all make it over to the island where the base is. Bakugo, in not so many kind words, says we don't need any extras down there. Todoroki agrees, and Deku does as well, and they all jump out of the plane to the final area of the movie. There's a giant island with a bunch of humanites who all are being revealed to be quirk users. This is the part of the movie where I'm literally, why?
Yes.
Why?
This is the part of the movie where my wife had me pause and try to explain to her what was going on.
Well, obviously there's quirks going on. That's really all you need to know. But
yeah, she's like, why are all of these people with quirks sending the person that's going to destroy them horribly? And I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you. Just make something up.
And then we have Bakugo so ethically put, why are you fighting for the guy trying to kill you?
Yes.
I guess before we continue, let me back up a little bit. As we back up to the canyon, I know she had a question, like, why doesn't Deku just attack them indirectly by having the ceiling collapse on him? Is that?
Yeah. Why not? Like, it always seems to reflect back in the direction that it was hit. So, like, if you knock the whole ceiling down on the guy would shoot the ceiling back up.
Wait, is this a question during the Fleck fight?
What?
Is this a question you're asking during the Fleck fight? Reflex fight?
Yeah.
Or... Oh, okay, so I jumped way ahead of what I was trying to do.
Knock the damn ceiling down on him, and like, even if he shoots it back up in the air, because it seems like when he deflects things, it goes back exactly in the direction that he was hit from. Then he'll knock the rocks up and down a few times. They'll fall apart maybe and land on the ground harmlessly, but like, it's not going to hurt Deku. Like, Deku's doing the exact thing that like is going to cause him to be damaged directly every time. But Deku could have been a little more tactile about it and like crash the building down on him, and like the building doesn't care if it gets injured back,
It's a back off from there. I mean, that does make sense. I really didn't think about it. I guess like really he was trying to help Rhodey. If he damaged the building, Rhodey probably would have gotten hurt. So he couldn't exactly bring the building down on him. But a piece of the ceiling maybe wouldn't have done too much social damage.
I don't think Rhodey was supposed to be there.
He wasn't supposed to be there, but he ended up being there to help Deku out.
It sounded like he was doing it to protect Rhodey in the beginning of the fight because Rhodey wasn't even really supposed to be there. If Rhodey showed up, that would have been a mistake that he wouldn't have realized later. But like, Deku totally could have like dropped pillars down on this guy and stuff like that before Rhodey comes on the scene. And even when Rhodey's there, he's off the scene pretty quickly. He does the
Yeah,
little
but I mean, he's still
ruse.
in the building though. Like, I mean, he may be another
Yeah,
door, but he's still in the building.
yeah.
I
I
understood
still think you
before
can
that.
knock some pillars at him and stuff, though.
Yeah, I see. I mean, I understand. Yeah. Hindsight is 2020. Before we get to that fight, we're gonna back up a little bit. After Bakugo,
Earlier about Deku versus Rhodey, that Rhodey doesn't have any powers like Deku, but Rhodey keeps up with Deku because he's so clever and he knows parkour and he was like experienced, like street smart. Deku's not street smart at all. He's used to growing up being bullied. So Deku's strategy is usually punch and get hit until like the other guy and count on like having more like endurance than the other guy. Deku doesn't like have clever strategies like this guy does. For a lot of his enemies, and a lot of the time, that's how people get the upper hand on Deku is by having like being the trickier or more strategic thinking one. Young Deku, earlier in the season, like was very strategic and very smart and like effective that way. But the more powers he's got, the more he's used his body like a jackhammer again.
he's only got one new power by this point, and this is the Black Whip, and that's not really brute force. You really can't use it that way, as far as I know.
His core powers increase too. Like he can use one for all, like at a higher percentage than he used to, and stuff like that. And he's got new techniques. But it seems like, despite all his new techniques and stuff like that, he's just throwing himself at this guy over and over again. And not
Well, I
really
mean,
thinking about
I guess I can probably defend this. I mean, granted, Deku later on is kind of brute force still, but at this point, Deku is still learning about One for All, because at this point he didn't even know Black Loop was even in there. He doesn't even know there's any extra powers in there either. It's like
he's used Black Whip multiple times in this movie.
yeah, but he's still trying to learn, because I think this is during the time when he was training Black Whip, because I don't think he uses it a lot like he does later.
You know how like the guy repeatedly knocks him back into a wall? What if he just used Black Whip to like grab onto stuff to slow the way he's being thrown backwards?
You talking about Reflect, or you talking somebody else?
I'm saying that when he's fighting the Reflect guy.
Yeah, but I think it would have reflected it, because all his.
I'm not saying hit him with Black Whip. I'm saying that rather than get thrown into the wall, all Deku would have had to do is like grab onto some pillars and stuff like that and use them to break his fly backwards. So that like he's grabbing onto something instead of crashing straight on into the wall.
Yeah, but I still think he's still relatively new to the idea, and he probably doesn't want to like lose control. I don't know what the mindset of Deku is in this point, because I know this is in between internship and the war, so I don't know like where his mind is with his.
One example of a strategy he could have used. He could have crashed the ceiling on him. He could throw a pillar at him instead of using his smash. He could have used his Black Whip to like hold on to things. He could have used his Black Whip to throw things at him from an angle other than like head on, so that when things flew back, they would fly back towards a wall instead of towards him.
I still think we'd still be at the current point where he was with that fight where he couldn't damage him. He would have to overload him, and I highly doubt that he could throw enough.
I'm saying that he could have softened the blow of him being thrown into the wall using Black Whip. If you can grab onto something, you can use that as leverage to try to hold on instead of being thrown, crashing into a wall and like denting the wall.
I get that, but I mean, are you sure that Deku is confident enough at this point, in the storyline where he's at right now? Because this isn't Deku later. This is Deku during him trying to learn.
Okay, but in the movie itself, he's web slinging around the bridge with it. Like he knows how to use it enough to soften a fall.
Maybe the animators forgot. I have no idea.
I'm just saying that like he didn't use many strategies. He just kind of ran in and hit him and kicked him and hit him and kicked him and hit him and kicked him, and then he hit him a bunch of times, and his body split into like 7 pieces or something like that, which I think we're supposed to like symbolize each of the iterations of One for All. But like all he's doing is hitting and kicking and punching and coming back and dragging himself back up and fighting again. And while we're at it, like while we're going at this, like why didn't Bakugo fly around in a way that made them tie their whip hands into a knot?
I mean, we're gonna go back and not tear some of these fights apart, but just talk about them.
I'm not tearing the fights apart. I'm saying that they were really pretty fights, but they weren't very smart ones. I was criticizing Bakugo as being like the great strategist, but like not being very smart about this fight. And I'm criticizing Deku too as to not using the training that we know he has, because he's powerful enough where he's just using it like a using himself like a jackhammer instead of thinking about how he can do better.
No, I get all that. I was just trying to
strategy involved, but like Bakugo could have fought smarter too.
I don't. Okay, I guess we're gonna talk about Bakugo's fight first. I don't know, because I mean, Bakugo was flying around. It wasn't like he wasn't. I mean, Bakugo was not standing still, and that's part of his fighting style. The guy's a grappler to begin with, but like, to me, it didn't seem like those guys' like whips were way faster than him for some reason, even without a trigger. On top of that, I guess that person was two people. I don't really know what's going on there.
There were two of them. They were twins.
Were they two different entities, just two people instead of like a clone of himself? Because like that's what was confusing me. Okay. But I honestly don't know. I mean, granted, with how long their serrated lips are, they shouldn't have been whipping around as much as they should have been, making it impossible for him to get around. I will agree, he probably should have like maybe because like I mean they were annoying. If he had calmed down a little, he probably could have found a way to tangle them up. Yeah, for sure. But I don't know if that would have stopped them or not. And on top of that, maybe they were smart enough to know that, don't let him, don't let him get around you so well so that he tangles you up. Because I mean, even though they weren't talking, there's no telling they weren't that they couldn't. There's no telling that they couldn't have been intelligent.
They took that shot though, which I think makes them more wild than like thinking of once you take that shot. You kind of lose your mind and become like a crazy version of yourself. It's more powerful.
I mean, they were already insane before, yeah, but they lost complete like not motor skill, but they definitely lost the ability to. That fight was just like, I mean, yeah, it was a really pretty fight, but at the same time, it wasn't like on the level of like the fight visually, like that Deku and him had. I mean, Bakugo and Deku had in the last movie. I don't know why I was expecting like some really beautiful like explosion or something. And I guess that's what Howlitzer Impact was, but I almost wish he had another high octane explosion move, but maybe that's for later.
Yeah.
But like, cause like I mean, I've seen a Howlitzer Impact before. It's not that it is not cool looking; it's just that he's used that a lot as his ultimate, and I feel like Bakugo could do a lot better. But I mean, I guess again he's still learning, so But yeah, it wasn't as beautiful as I thought it could have been, but I'm pretty sure a lot of that budget went towards the next fight that I want to talk about. And as I said about to talk about this fight, I'm gonna bring up a GIF live on the video. I say this specifically because I rewound this part of the the movie so much because I just like the way fire looks in this show for some reason. But so right at the very beginning of this fight with this guy, ends up getting sent into the ground after getting hit with him into the water, and apparently I don't completely understand this Lobo character's abilities. It sounds like he has rotational ability with his body, which allows him to control whatever I guess is sent in his direction. In this case, ice and fire. It was a really weird fight, and apparently Todoroki makes the comment that he must be loaded with sugar because he doesn't seem to be acting like with thought, which I thought was interesting. That we had a character jump into the fight already hooked on trigger. I noticed that they really like using trigger in the movies. I'm noticing, like they introduced trigger in the anime, and now they're just using it in the movies. Well, it was like this guy was pretty much a lot of raw power. Todoroki also being a character with just raw potential. I think this fight was really beautiful to me. Like the fire and everything that was going around it after Todoroki was being sent down the river with this guy trying to drown him. Todoroki sees that there's a waterfall and he's like, I gotta do this quick. And like he essentially is able to, he's in the air and he's able to make instantly an ice bridge that catches him and also catches the guy. I thought that was kind of interesting too. That Todoroki's gotten better about being able to instantaneously do some things. I guess it wasn't instantaneously, but he's able to make things really easily with his ice abilities now. Like he's learning quite a bit, and pretty much he's also at this point not afraid to use his fire half of his ability, and essentially does a combo attack, flash freeze heat wave, which is essentially just a fireball being surrounded by an ice net in this case, and it results in an explosion, and pretty much it doesn't do anything to the guy, and the guy ends up like the villain ends up eating Todoroki, and pretty much is like, you can like manipulate fire. And this scene to me was a really cool scene, and it was like it gave Todoroki a really cool glossed up fight scene with his ultimate, which at this point is just full on like frontal fire attack. That I guess this is what he's been working with his father. I had assumed at first he was gonna do prominent sperm, but I guess maybe he doesn't have the firepower for that yet. But I do like flash fire jet kindling, and not only was I watching this in repeat on YouTube, I also found the sub and dub comparison because I kind of wanted to hear what it sounded like, in the sub and the dub, and I gotta admit I like the dub a little bit more because there's like more raw emotion in it than it sounds like in the Japanese sub, which is kind of weird considering that usually Japanese subs have way more emotion in like naming attacks and in the action. But for whatever reason, the actor here did a really good job in my opinion, and the echo really helped out with with finishing the calling out the name. The fight was just really freaking beautiful. I loved the going back and forth. The only problem I had with this fight was I wish it was longer. Cause like this fight could have went on a little bit longer than like, in my honest opinion, I think this could have went on like almost the same length as like Fleck if they gave the villain speaking lines and actually kind of made him like a human. Like he didn't have to be a
It's like the villain was weird because he didn't have one quirk. He was more like a Nomu than a villain.
But then speaking of normals and villains, but
I know, but like Nomus are a specific type of villain. He wasn't like a person with a quirk. He was like he had a lot of different abilities associated with his quirk. More like a Nomu that had multiple quirks.
I mean, he said he was. I mean, Todoroki made the observation that he was honest. Like, it's not like it was a human who was just hopped up on Trigger. That's what Todoroki said when he was interacting with him. I'm not sure what happens when you give Trigger to a Nomu.
Trigger kind of like warps you out.
I'm not sure what Trigger does to a Nomu if they ever gave one to it. That'd be actually insane if they ever gave a Nomu Trigger. That'd be kind of funny.
I wonder if the Nomu would just melt down now. The Nomus are pushing the edge of what the mind that's inside of them can handle. I'm just glad Flex didn't have Trigger with him. He probably assumed he didn't need it.
Well, technically speaking, he didn't. But
he was under the impression that his ability was infinite.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a minute. But I guess as I end this conversation, I really did like this fight. Like this is like, unfortunately, from what I understand, I think this is the final movie. There was gonna be 3 movies for the show. This is the 3rd one. This really has me kind of excited for a fight in the anime with Dabi, with Dabi and him, because I'm guessing what's going to happen is Todoroki's going to fight him. I'm just kind of interested to see like how that will go. In terms of like Shoto working his abilities out, because at this point, I suspected that by that point in the anime, Shoto will have a better control and better knowing of what he's capable of, because we've been slowly seeing him learning a little bit more and more about his fire side of his ability, because he's been neglecting it, up to this point. So him officially seeing him have a move for the having an ultimate move for the fire build side of his quirk is awesome. I suspect though, I think the ultimate move for him is going to be, we saw it before when Deku and him were fighting in the tournament, when he accidentally, pretty much, well, I say accidentally, but he combined his fire and his ice ability. Now, according to Cementos, that could have killed Deku. So I'm guessing the pressure in air rapidly expanding around being hot and cold led to some like giant air bazooka or giant laser. Um, so I suspect that maybe what what he'll ultimately come up with. I think I could be completely wrong. Maybe it's something completely different. That's my guess. Like I want to see him combine both sides and really come up with a really powerful move. I feel like once he does that, he will achieve what his quirk is capable of at the utmost level. I still think even after this fight, he still has a lot of raw potential. Even though after he landed that move on that guy, he pretty much like falls because he's tired. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he probably hadn't used this move before in a fight, so that's probably what really happened to him there. I thought it was really cool. I mean, I don't know about you. Hello?
I'm here. What did you say at the end?
That's like I thought this fight was really cool. So I don't know about you. About like
Oh, you mean
Todoroki
I thought it was
versus.
a little abstract, and I enjoyed it because it's a very pretty fight. But I liked a lot of Todoroki's moves, and I liked that he really had a moment to shine because Todoroki is so uncertain and self-doubting half the time. But it was nice to see him cut loose and do like a really good fight. But I'm glad it was in a movie and not like a series because it just doesn't have that special bit that I think they put into fight scenes in like the regular series.
I still think
I
he
know
has the
it's
ability to get that little like what you're looking for in the anime. I mean, his ability, even though it's like a lot of raw power, he can still use it like in very creative ways.
you're
Like,
looking for character development. He didn't develop as a character; he just used powers against something else with powers.
I mean, I think he'll get more character development. I mean, I said before, he's still uncertain, and I mean, the fact that he's willing to use the fire side of his quirk without hesitation, by this point in the story, shows growth as well.
He uses his fire like without hesitation in this, without any reference to his hesitation about his like father becoming his father or honoring his father or anything else. Because every time he uses his fire ability, it's supposed to be representative of him sort of giving in to the destiny that his father assigned to him of being the hero that like uses fire and ice. And until recently, he's been only using it with a little bit of fire here and there in a pinch. But here he goes all out and uses his fire without like worrying about it at all.
I also want to point out before we move on to like Deku versus Fleck, um, I've been noticing this almost every time it's kind of popped up with him. Um, Not that like his ice power isn't useful and unique. I honestly sitting there, I'm wondering. And I don't know if this is like what they're intending to show off, is that his fire side is way more offensive. Like it's way freaking powerful. Like I almost want to say it's like way more powerful than Endeavor. And I know that's kind of what Endeavor was attempting to do, but it just seemed like it was like it didn't seem like it was like something like how his mother side of his powers work, where um depending on how much ice he puts out, it can be really obtusely defensive. Like he would take a really strong individual to break out of his ice hole, and we kind of see that when Todoroki like pins down Deku in the anime from the last season we reviewed, like where a probably normal person would not have been able to break out of that, or a person who didn't have the ability to melt ice or break free from ice like as easily
Right.
as those guys. They seem like it would take a really strong individual to break out of his ice hole. To me, here in a situation where he uses the fire just as a straight up attack, it's like, to me, it's like that shows that I think his fire side of his quirk is just way more powerful than we initially are seeing right now. I could just be reading too much into it, but that's what it seemed like to me. Like some other reason, like they're showing that Todoroki's like fire side just has way more offensive potential than we're seeing right now.
be persuaded to agree with that. I think if anything, the ice and fire can balance each other out, where he doesn't get too cold.
Well, I
He
mean
doesn't get
that's
as long as
ultimately.
he uses it evenly.
I'm just kind of waiting for that moment where he actually manages to combine fire and ice, because he did it that one time in the fight when he wasn't like holding back. So it's just like, I wonder if he can do that like consciously now, like, you know, like find a way to do that. And maybe that's what he's working on, is trying to find a way to combine both in some really weird harmony. I guess we'll find out whenever it is important. I still think he's got like a lot of way to go, and we're gonna see where his character ultimately ends. Um,
Right.
Moving on to the very end of the movie with Deku and Flex and Rhodey. The meat and potatoes of the fight really only happens after Rhodey comes in and then runs to put the takes the key to shut down everything from Deku, pretends to give it to Flex after Deku kind of like loses the first half of the fight. Um, and we get a little flashback of like, you know, him telling Deku that, you know, his what his quirk is, and we find out that it's the bird, the pink bird that's been with him the entire time. And as Spear said earlier on in the podcast, that he's unable to lie. This bird, no matter what, will show his true intent, no matter what. And pretty much we find out like, I mean, he's acting like he's pretending to give the key to deflect, but actually tricks him, kicks him between the legs, and then runs off with the key through the column doors, through the corridor, and Prince Dick gets in the way, so you're not gonna get past me. And then this is where the real part of the fight pretty much happens.
And let's point out that Rhodey got shot at 122.30. So he's stumbling out of there pretty hard, heavily wounded at that.
That's right, he is bleeding. That's right, he is bleeding. That's not how I meant that the sound. But
Anyway.
yeah, he's injured, and pretty much gets to the other side of the door. He ends up like dropping to the ground, and also his bird looks like it's disappearing as all this is happening. But then we flash back to Deku, and he's fighting Flex, and this entire fight is just like, I guess, ultimate sword fighting the ultimate shield. Everything that Deku, as Spear was, you know, elegantly complaining about throughout the entirety of his fight with him, Deku was sending really powerful smashes his way, only for them to get reflected. And at the time, it did seem like there was no way. I was sitting there like, can he just overload him like immediately? It's like, I know he can do it. Freaking All Might did it a lot of times on people who had like with Nomu, he just overloaded Nomu's ability
That
to.
can take a certain amount of this power at a time, and if he goes too far beyond it, he'll just destroy himself. So I think he's doing it within the power range of what he knows he can absorb, so that he can actually have a fight here and do more than one shot before he dies.
I feel like he can still overload him even with the power level he's got, but maybe I'm wrong. But I mean, he's doing a lot of shots his way, Delaware smashes and whatnot, and he just keeps on reflecting. And we learn throughout the fight that
Delaware smash and whatnot. I like that.
I mean, they're all fist attacks. But throughout the fight, we learn from Flex that the main reason why he won. Well, actually, correction. Deku is about to fight him, and he throws a punch to him when he first meets him in the room, only for it to reflect. And we find out at that immediate moment he has a quirk. So you could tell just based on his character design that he definitely had abilities. It wasn't like really. Though I mean, you could probably claim that I thought it was a mask at first that he had on his face, but apparently that was just ability. But I found out later on that, you know, Fleck is like, I want to destroy people with quirks because I could never get a hug as a kid.
Yeah, it's pretty lame.
Apparently his ability reflects all contact. It's really weird. And what do you say?
Meanwhile, Deco's going all out, like channeling every single one of his past avatars.
He doesn't have access to that part of his abilities yet. But at this
You
point,
see the little stars like that represent all his different avatars before he goes.
yeah, but he doesn't know about them. He
Before his eyes start glowing like One Punch Man and stuff like that. He might not know about it, but it's definitely helping him out. You can see the stars like that represent the different avatars, and then when he's punching, you see that there's like 7 of him at once. Like, it's definitely representing the previous One-for-Alls.
I'll buy that for $1. I don't know why for $1, but we'll just move on.
It's just that star imagery, that exact like.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. I'm not denying now. I'm just.
With the different colors and stuff. It's definitely doing that.
Like Deku is like landing punches on him. They're reflecting. Meanwhile, Reflex coming up there and punching Deku in the face, somehow sending him flying. There's this fight between these two going on. It's just destroying the entire arena around him because every time Deku throws a punch, he reflects it. Also, to point out too that every time that Deku does land a hit on Flex, you see behind Flex there's this giant dark aura, just like that. Like it's a really weird animation thing I noticed it was happening, and it was happening every time he got hit. And then they just sent it flying back at him. I was like, that's really weird. They got that appearing behind him like that. I'm not sure if that's really happening or that's just like an animation thing they're doing. So based on this world, I'm pretty sure maybe it is just a combination of both. But every time he's sending it back and we find out Flex Sass or he can never get a hug, stuff like that. And Deku's constantly firing at him until that his reflectability actually starts to weaken. And Flex is like, wait a minute, is like my reflecting ability going away? And I was just sitting there like, bro, how did you not know that you may have a limit?
Right.
I get that that you've been reflecting everything your entire life, but why wouldn't you think you had a limit? And Deku is like, of course you there's a limit. Like you gave up a long time ago before you even tried. I was like, dang, Deku giving him a lecture while he's beating his butt.
I know, especially a guy like that who's never been told where to go and how to get there before.
He's giving him a lecture, and he just starts beating, and then he's like, I'm not giving up. He goes plus ultra, and like, as you correctly put, he accesses all past people that use that quirk, and then essentially, like, it reminded me of the fight that he had with Bakugo when they were both fighting the main villain of the second movie. Because like Deku's eye like turns into that little, I guess, symbol or whatever, the little electricity symbol through his eye, and he's accessing, I guess, all the power that he has access to at this current moment, and it starts landing these like All Might like punches on him. it like, as far as like spectacle fights go, that one was really good. City overloads Flex's ability to reflect, and then Flex is literally just knocked out on the ground. Deku, his arms are all bruised. Obviously they are. Apparently just his arms though. I think the United States of the World Smash was done by his feet, that we now know can withstand more damage. I thought that was cool. We'll never see that move again. I swear we see that move at the end of the entire series. I'm gonna be so done with the show. But yeah, that was cool. I think every single fight was really cool in their own right. It gave a chance for them to have their own one-on-one fight, because the movie series started out with Deku needing to fight with All Might to beat the bad guy. The second movie was with Deku was fighting with Bakugo against the bad guy, and then in the third movie they were able to fight on their own by this point in the show. Being able to show why they should be heroes, every single one of them, by the end of it. So it's kind of cool they managed to be able to fight one-on-one with a villain now, because it's something they couldn't have done before. Let's see here. Fleck is no longer blue, as I said before. I read this and I was thinking about the Eiffel Tower. Not Eiffel Tower, but I think it's like Eiffel 60, like I'm blue. I think I'm getting the tab that we need to end here soon. So uh I guess the city was trash, wasn't it? Like after all this is happening. But essentially, the movie, we get to the point where Rhodey is
It's
on
funny
the.
when you see Trash City because it's just like you're like, wow. Because like every fight you've seen has been like in a remote area on the mountainside or something for the most part, or like in a really small area. And then they pan over the city and it's just like chunks taken out everywhere. And you know that something similar has happened in like 40 other locations across the world, and you're just like, that's ridiculous that like this is their state that they left the city in after they're fighting. And it just seems like so everyday to everybody there. Like everybody's just gonna kind of go off and live with it, and you know it. But like it's so
Yeah, the
every
bombs.
time the superheroes mix it up, like the whole city's like trashed. But it also does kind of like bring out why it would be empathetic that there would be people against heroes and thinking that like people with quirks are cursed because like you see like how the everyday person like gets completely like wrecked every single time that the bigger powered people have disagreements.
I hate how usually they have disagreements, like it's an argument happening in the street.
Oh look, they had a squabble again. You know, Lisbon, site of one of the most famous earthquakes in the world.
Apparently, like, we get to near the end of the movie, the bombs didn't go off because Rhodey's bird was able to somehow grab the key and then shove it into the mechanism and turn it, shutting all the bombs off. What?
I'm still here. Do you hear something?
I thought I heard something. Not sure what it was.
I don't know what.
Everybody's saved. Everybody's in the victory dance. Like Print Decker goes over to grab Rhodey and to see if he's okay, and he sees that Rhodey's still breathing. I honestly thought with the way that bird was fading away, I thought he was dying. I guess he wasn't.
Or like he faded for a minute and then like rallied or something. I wondered about that too. Because the bird fading away for us was I thought was supposed to represent the guy losing consciousness or something.
I thought he was dying, but apparently he wasn't. So
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Or at least passing out, you know.
Yeah, I guess passing out. I thought the bird would just remain there. Okay, whatever. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. It's a small detail that's really confusing, but
it wasn't the greatest month. They should have not shown the bird fading.
it was a fake out. Like they do, like they somehow like doing these things. Yeah, we see that he's alive, he's fine, and then we cut away to I guess maybe a week or so later, after all the events that trashed the world. We already know that Fleck and everybody's like being like arrested and being sent to jail. Funny enough, I find it funny that like I guess his ability is no longer reflecting constantly, I guess, or maybe I guess they had quirk dampening. There are different ways he could have found a way to turn off his always active quirk, and he just didn't try. I was in like, it could have been a support item, man. Just get a code or something.
Right.
There's a way to turn your quirk off. But no, you had to go and trash the world because you couldn't touch somebody. Again, I'm being rude here. Okay, but first we get to the end of the movie and we see Endeavor and everybody. They're all going back to Japan to continue the work study, I guess. And Rhodey catches up with Deku and he's like, I'm glad you're leaving because like every time you're around, something else is going it's always like something else going on. And as we know, the bird is showing his true feelings, and he's like pretty much sad that they're going. And as they're about to part their ways, the bird's also shown crying. So like even though Rhodey isn't crying, the bird's crying. It's a really weird way. He could never like
The way that he misses him.
He could never plan a surprise party.
No, definitely not.
That bird would just give me things away.
God damn that bird.
So they end up going up the escalator, and that's kind of like the end of the movie there. Everybody's like living their own lives now. I guess the construction workers now have another like contract they need to fulfill to fix all the damage done.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end of the movie. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Basically, I guess my best way to put it is like I thoroughly enjoyed it. I want to say I think I enjoyed it just a tiny bit more than I enjoyed the Dragon Ball movie that we watched last time.
I enjoyed the Dragon Ball movie for sure. I liked it more than the other two My Hero movies too.
I don't know. I think there's something special about 2 for me. I definitely like this. I definitely did like this. It wasn't like I didn't hate it. But I don't know. There's something special about like 1 and 2. I guess quality wise, I think 3 is probably better. But like, I enjoyed 1 for different reasons. I enjoyed 2 for different reasons. I'm gonna enjoy this one for different reasons.
This is the one that stood out for me out of the 3 My Heroes. So
yeah, I can see why.
I think it was probably a 7 out of 10, but like I was happy with it, and I liked it a lot more than some of the other stuff. Like a high 7.
It's unfortunate there probably won't be any more My Hero stuff until who knows when. We still got time between now and October if they're gonna announce the season. I think usually they always announce the season like after the season ends. So
I wish they'd play new seasons like while like I wasn't struggling to remember the previous season.
what you say about like you not remembering what?
No, I just think that like sometimes it seems like it's years between seasons, and I'm like, just feed me a season like often enough that like I can enjoy it. You know.
Well, I mean, they're only animating off the source material. I mean, and apparently this dude likes to animate at least 3 seasons at once. That's where I came up with what I came up with last time. I was like, well, it's about to end, and there's only 2 more arcs that have been completed. They're on their 3rd, and it hasn't been finished yet. So I don't even know if they are going by the whole we want to animate 3 seasons, we want to animate 3 story arcs at once for 1 season, then like we at least until the manga ends, I guess at some point we won't be seeing the next season. And who knows who's gonna animate it if they wait too long.
Right.
But yeah, I guess we'll see you guys next time. I guess I'll give this movie a 7.5, 8. Like
Like I said, a high 7. I didn't give it a decimal point, but I'd say it's a high 7, somewhere in the high 7 range.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I did not regret watching it. I definitely regretted waiting for so long. I didn't realize this movie came out in 2019.
I didn't either. It seemed like when we were talking about it coming out, it was fairly recent. I think it would have been more exciting to watch if we hadn't seen so many spoilers, kind of like plotline spoilers on like what was going to happen next.
Yeah, I think if we did wait so long, if we had watched like right during the Endeavor arc ending with the internship stuff, like this would have been a lot better.
It would have fit in better with the hype.
Yeah, I mean, it took me so long to get the DVD, so that's totally on me. I've been waiting to see. I don't even know when that DVD came out. I know I've had it for a while.
We'll hug it out after the podcast. It'll be all right. I forgive you.
All right, guys, we'll see you August 7th for the start of the 9-episode Dragon Prince season 5. I know Jock is looking forward to it. Probably way more than I am. I'm not saying I'm not looking forward to it, but just like like he's probably more hyped about it than I am.
10 out of 10. Would hype again.
All right. With that, guys, we'll see you then. Thank you for stopping by and enjoy the rest of your night.
Bye.